All right, here we go. These are the questions that were had in one of these suitcase locks in my chain in my hand. Something, trust me. I understand. All right, again, Daria will be going first. She won the straw poll, so questions for her. By the way, our timekeeper is right there in front. If she signals to me that your time is up, your time will be up. And excuse my interruption, but your time is up. Are you ready? Are we both ready? Question one is on the economy. The U.S. is in the midst of one of the worst economic periods in history, despite the federal government's best efforts. Unemployment is at record levels. What steps specifically would you undertake via legislation in Congress to restore jobs to Connecticut?
There's a lot of things that can be done in this economy, but what we have to be willing to do is to tighten our belts, and that's going to be really important in the coming year. What we would see if we cut back on spending is that we could, in 2 years, have a balanced budget. If we went back to $21,000 spending per household, which is what it was in the early Reagan years, by 2012, with no new tax increases, we would be debt-free. If we don't want to go back to $21,000, if we go back to $25,000, which is only $1,000 less per household spent when Obama came in, by 2019, we would be debt-free with no new tax increases. It can be done. So one thing I would do is say, let's tighten the belt, stop government spending. Another thing we need to do is to tighten the belt and not allow Congress to spend that money. 100% of the savings cuts goes to reducing the deficit. It will work. Another thing we do is get rid of redundancy in the government. There are a lot of programs. We don't have to eliminate the services. We just need to eliminate the redundancy. 342 redundant economic development programs, 130 redundant programs for the disabled, 130 programs that are redundant for youth that are disabled, and over 90 redundant programs in early childhood education. We have to stop this type of spending. So where do we cut? $55 billion in annual program overpayments, $60 billion in corporate welfare programs. These are savings that we can do very easily. $13 billion in earmarks, over 9,000 earmarks this past year. We can cut these out. $25 billion is spent in programs that consistently fail to achieve their mission. We don't need these types of programs. We can get rid of that in the government. The Congressional Budget Office budget plan has said that we have over $140 billion we can easily cut out. It can be done. We can do it. We just have to be determined. I think we... All set? All set.
Thank you. Doug?
The cuts that Daria just mentioned are fine. We can start cutting those things. The most important thing we have to do right now is stop the momentum that the government has of creating a culture that has us as dependent on the government. The government right now has started to put in programs that we will never be able to get rid of if we don't do them quickly. And those programs add to programs we've already got. We are becoming a dependency society. We've got to stop that momentum, and we've got to stop it soon. Now, of course, we need to cut waste. There's tons of waste in government right now. What we need to do is foster an environment under which businesses, the private industry, wants to invest its money. Nobody's doing anything right now. You've got contractors who are not building. You've got investors who are not investing. We need to have an environment where the public sector is not growing and the private sector is. Right now we're creating jobs, but they're all in government. So we're reaching a tipping point where government is going to overcome the private sector, and we have got to stop that before we hit that tipping point. Thank you.
The next topic will be on immigration. Doug, you'll go first. A comprehensive immigration reform will likely be debated when you make it to Capitol Hill. Now, do you support wholesale amnesty, securing the borders first, or something completely different, and why?
We have got to secure the borders first. That is absolutely the first thing we must do. And it's not an immigration issue. It's a national security issue. We're in the middle of two wars right now with an enemy that is clandestine. They like to sneak into places and blow our people up. Yet our borders are porous, and anybody can just come right in. So the first thing we have to do is close the borders, or secure the borders. Now, a lot of people say this is an immigration issue, it's not a national security issue. Fine, you want to talk immigration? We'll talk immigration. Let's secure the borders, and then we'll talk about how we allow more and more people in legally. Because right now it's very difficult to get into this country legally. So it should be easier to get in legally and impossible to get in illegally. We can't start talking about what to do with all the people that are already here until we stop the flow of more people coming. We've basically got a swimming pool that's filling up with a fire hose. And people are saying, well, how do we empty the swimming pool? Well, the first thing we have to do is turn off the fire hose. So we must secure our borders, then talk about a comprehensive immigration policy that allows people in legally in the front door and not jumping over the fences.
I agree we have to secure our borders. There's no two ways about it. Every nation state has a right to, a privilege, a responsibility to secure the borders, but we need to go further than that. There's a Marinda program that we have with the Mexican government. In that program, we help the Mexican government to try and stop the flow of illegal immigration. We need to improve upon that program and expand, working with Mexican law enforcement agents to secure our borders. We also need to have economic development programs across the border to make it non-advantageous to come across the border, so that the Mexican population will want to stay within their own society and to work there instead of coming across the border due to economic benefits here. We need to follow the laws that we have on the books in this country before we try to start reform. We need to take incremental reform measures if we're going to solve this problem. We need to look at smart technologies that we're looking at now just in a very minor way under this administration. And that means improved border security in high-tech areas along the border where there are high levels of passage of Mexican citizens coming into our country. We also need to look at inviting in those citizens legally to work here who have a good purpose in mind, intend on returning to their country, and are not willing to break American law. And that means reforming our immigration policy so that we can invite in guest workers. That's going to take time to get this problem solved. It wasn't started overnight, but there's a lot of things that we can do, beginning with securing our borders by following our laws. There is nothing wrong with Arizona, as far as I can see, following the laws that are on the books. We're not talking racial profiling, we are talking adhering to American law. That's right and that's just.